46 years.
3 beloved isles.
1 beloved station, Radio Cayman.
The voice.
The heart.
The soul of the Cayman Islands.
Oh, I think they're doing a great job. A lot of them are.
Good afternoon, Dwayne. How are you?
Not too bad, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Radio Cayman's Talk Today with Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
But I do have some questions.
There are more questions than answers.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today. If you're ready to talk, we're willing to listen.
Well, I really enjoy this program today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
May God bless every person.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for your time, your patience, your dedication, and thank you for your service. And start things off with a discussion with our excellent friends over at the Department of Children and Family Services. 1 o'clock, we get to celebrate the good things over at the Lighthouse School. And then 1:30 was an excellent lecture this evening at the University College. And a visiting professor from the KFL campus in Barbados will be your guest together with some others. So we want to share with you and ask you to be a part of our discussion. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
Talk Today is brought to you by Subway, open 24 hours in Countryside, Anderson Square in Georgetown, and Centennial Towers in West Bay. And by the Ministry of District Administration, Tourism and Transport. Explore your history, explore your land, explore your sister islands. MedLab in Smith Road Plaza, your complete medical laboratory solution. Call 949-7331. And Savannah Pharmacy in Countryside Shopping Village, convenient opening hours including Sundays and holidays.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today, the Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program. We ask our listeners to avoid statements or comments which are abusive, derogatory, malicious, or defamatory. Do not use any indecent language or make any statement which is false or misleading. Email talktoday@candw.ky or call 1-800-534-8255. Courtesy of Flow.
Cayman's #1 network that connects you to your world like never before.
Let your voice be heard. Once again, here's your host, Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome. Thanks for sharing with us. And thanks to our good friends over at Department of Children and Family Services for not just their continuing effort, but for being with us today. And we talk about, World Elder Abuse Awareness Day. I think it's important for us to realize that sometimes even in our action and inaction, by omission, the commission, sometimes it's inadvertent. We do things without really respecting and reflecting and appreciating that it can amount to abuse. So our social workers from DCFS, Ms. Tempora Wesley, Ms. Lucille Borden, together with Harlan Giopano. Thank you so much for your work, but for joining us. Ms. Wesley, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Sterling, and good afternoon to our audience. Thank you so much for giving us the opportunity to share important information for our community to learn a little more about our presentation today, our discussion on World Elder Abuse Awareness Day, which is commemorated every year, the 15th of June, and is to highlight one of the worst manifestations of ageism and inequality in our society, which is elder abuse. Mm-hmm. And this has been celebrating from 2011 when the United Nations in General Assembly recognized this day as the World Elder Abuse Awareness Day. But even though it was recognized that day by the United Nations General Assembly, in 2006, there was another group, the International Network for the Prevention of Elder Abuse, that they were already celebrating this this topic on elder abuse. And the purpose of the World Elder Abuse Awareness Day is to provide an opportunity for the community around the world to promote a better understanding of abuse and neglect of the older persons, and it's by raising awareness in all the cultural, social, economic, and demographic process affecting elder abuse and neglect. It's a very important topic to discuss. And our department, the Department of Children and Family Services, in the year 2018, responding to the Cayman Islands Older Person Policy of 2016, and also the Cayman Islands Older Person Act of 2017, formalized the Elder Services team, to deliver social work services by investigating elder abuse, by meeting the needs of the older person, contributing to their social development, and educating the community. And actually, this is what we're doing today. Is educating the community, is sharing with the community things that are affecting our older persons. And that's why we're here, and we really appreciate this opportunity. This year, we decided to focus more on financial abuse. And it's due to the amount of referrals that we received at the department. And this is an ongoing promotion, okay? We're going to continue to recognize this topic through the year. Next month, we will have a webinar, and other programs will come along.
Yeah. And this is where I think having this discussion, this awareness, that sometimes we mean well, but we don't even realize that we're being abusive. Now, we're going to focus on financial abuse, because I think sometimes we try to make sure that we manage, the affairs, let's say, of our parents, our grandparents, our aunts and uncles, those people that we genuinely love, but we may not realize that what we are doing amounts to abuse.
They're not aware of things that are happening to their lives.
Right. You use abuse, and then you use the word neglect.
Yes.
Are they one and the same? How are they different if they're not? Help us.
This is interesting. Yeah. I'm going to allow my colleague, Ms. Herlin, to expand on the type of abuse. She's going to speak a little more on that topic.
Ms. Harlan, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Wayne. Thank you, Ms. Tempora. Before going any farther with the discussion, let me speak a little bit about elder abuse. We still hear some people say maybe that is an elder abuse or not. So in that way, we can still hear and feel the unsureness of what is an elder abuse. So elder abuse is an act of physical and mental maltreatment that causes harm to an elderly person, whether by action or inaction. Elder abuse can be in many forms. It can be verbal, psychological, and emotional abuse, such as blaming, belittling, shaming, humiliation, harassment. And then the other one is the sexual abuse, the unwanted touching or sexual activity. Then neglect and abandonment, failure. This is the failure to provide the needs of the older person. The next one is the physical abuse. This is the pushing, hitting, slapping, kicking, pinching, and punching. And then the self-neglect. This is refusing to take care of themselves. One good example is refusing to receive medical attention, to take care of personal hygiene like brushing, combing, etc. And then the last one is the financial abuse. This is the focus of our presentation and will be discussed more by my colleague Lucille Buden.
Well, Ms. Lucille, as I listen to this sometimes, and I wonder to what extent societies, but with the greatest of respect to any and others, the society in the Cayman, how respectful and appreciative and loving and kind and considerate are we to our elders? We have a perception that in some societies, our elders are revered. They're given accommodation and access. They're given such a platform that we look at them as, what they are. The sages, the knowledge base, and we look to them. But in other societies, are they relegated to the back burner just because they reach a certain age, whether they're physical active or not? And I wonder in Cayman, are we as respectful as we think we are? Can we do more? Where are we?
Unfortunately, in Cayman, like anywhere else, they have elder abuse. We'd hate to think that way, but more and more cases are coming up of neglect, abuse, financial abuse, everything, self-neglect, abandonment, and so on and so forth. So while we like to think that we do take care of our elders here, there's many cases that more and more are showing up every single day. The caseloads are getting higher in our department, and people are reporting. Not every case we could work with, but all the cases we will assess and see if we could help Sometimes it's a needs assessment issue and so on and so forth. But the focus that we have today is the financial abuse, which is coming up more and more in our department to show that this is what's happening. We're being alerted to more and more. And like Ms. Tempora said, sometimes the family's not even aware that they're doing the financial abuse.
Yeah.
They may not recognize, or maybe they are recognizing, or the family or the caregiver or whatever, whoever it is, they are recognizing it. And then some don't really realize that what they're doing is considered abuse. So some of the things I'm going to talk about is that this is one of the most frequent types that we're dealing with right now. It's coming up more and more. Yes, we still have the neglect, we have the abandonment, we have the physical abuse and all that stuff. But the financial abuse seems to be showing up, presented more and more, and it's the most difficult one to see. One of the things is it's tricky for families to address. That's one thing, for sure. The older person may be quite attached to the individual who's perpetrating, and they feel dependent on them, so they don't want to say nothing, even if they do, or they don't believe it. You know, a lot of people nowadays, older persons that experiencing dementia, they may be Alzheimer's, so they're not understanding that person is hurting them in any which way. They may be, if it's brought up to light, the other persons may perceive as suspicious or problematic, and they're just causing trouble in the household, and that's all they're doing. Or they may be concerned about stirring up family drama and not letting the society know that there is something going on, so they'll just let it continue. And so they don't want to say, oh, my sibling's doing this, my relative is doing that, because then everybody in the country is going to know, because it's such a small society. They try and sweep it under the rug a little bit. But it's coming out. People often are unsure of what can be done, and sometimes we do involve the police. When it seems to be a clear-cut case, we will go that route. But if we could help to educate, we will. And that's one of the things the department wants to do. Our goal is to aim to educate and promote how to protect the older person from this abuse. So some of the types of misuse of financial abuse is misuse of theft of assets belonging to a vulnerable person. You may sell somebody's property while they still live in it, sign the papers over, and before you know it, they're homeless. The person used the funds somewhere else, but because they had power of attorney, whatever, they were able to sell it out from underneath them. That's through coercion, deception, harassment, or threat. Another way is vulnerable adults may be unaware. Elder financial abuse, also called exploitation, is the misuse of an adult's funds or property. So again, speaking of taking the property of the other person, this can include outright theft, misuse of power of attorney, or other breach of fiduciary duty to manage funds belonging to the adult. It also encompasses an intentional breach of promise to repay money. So they'll borrow money from you and say, oh, I'll pay it back, and the person forgets it, or they think they forget it, and they just, oh, I need to borrow some money from you again, and the same thing, the cycle continues. They believe they're taking care of them, or they'll provide a service or something like that, and they'll cut the lawn and expect payment or whatever. In the meantime, they're living in the household, they're not contributing and using the elders' funds. So those are some of the types of things that they financial abuse is. Sometimes the older person is aware, and sometimes they're unaware that this is going on. And they don't want to believe it because it's usually somebody they trust. The abuser uses the old person's money without the consent and knowledge. They sign legal documents on behalf of the older person, threaten or punish an older person if they don't give them perpetrator money. An example is they'll threaten to leave them. Say, if you don't give me this money, then I'm not going to take care of you. Nobody wants to take care of you. So they're left to say, oh, my God, I can't take care of myself, and my caregiver's leaving, and they're bedridden or whatever, so who's going to take care of me? I'm going to just lay here and die. So they get frightened, and they give them into them. There's cases where they'll take them to the bank and make them sign, saying, oh, we need to buy this, we need to buy that. In the meantime, the person, is really taking the money to buy their own personal things.
Wow.
They don't know what they're getting. They don't know what they're doing with all that stuff because they don't recall everything that is going on, especially when they have dementia, especially when they have Alzheimer's. And sometimes if they had a stroke, they may not remember everything either. So you got a lot of different people who are doing different things that are inappropriate, and they just don't realize. And like earlier, the families don't want to get involved because then they're airing out the dirty laundry of the family. So
much. Well, when we come back from the break, because I think this is sobering. I think it's something that some of us probably don't even realize, or we know, and as Ms. Lucy was sharing, maybe it's time that we address it, even if it seems embarrassing. But if the person we love and we can take care of them now, there's no sense of having a regret, after the fact. Well, we'll continue the discussion after the break. And thanks very much for helping us to appreciate a very, very sensitive topic. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
From beach gatherings, leave the catering to Subway. Choose from small and large sandwich platters, double meat wrap platters, and top it off with optional cookie platters for dessert. Or ask about our Subway box to go with the option of 6-inch or foot-long sandwich, 1 cookie, and 1 bag of chips for all occasions and celebrations. Let Subway focus on the food so you can focus on the fun. Visit subway.ky for catering options. Subway. Eat fresh.
For medical lab services in Cayman, go straight to MedLab. Blood test, x-ray, and mammogram, all of that is MedLab. Affordable fees and friendly service, a full professional team. MedLab is always comfortable, MedLab is always clean. For medical lab services in Cayman, MedLab.
Call 949-7331 and ask about MedLab's new state-of-the-art digital mammogram machine.
For the record. For information that matters to you, the people. Hear from the government, the opposition, independents, and other experts on issues and solutions that affect you. For the record. Every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, tune into 89.9 and 93.9 FM for Cayman's Straight Talk Morning Show. For the record.
I invite you to join me for the record. You are invited to be a part of this interesting and informative show. Embrace the opportunity to dialogue with your legislators, policymakers, and those charged with policy implementation.
For the record. Brought to you by
Coca-Cola. Available across the Cayman Islands from Tortuga Distributors.
Accept no substitutes. Taste the feeling with Coca-Cola.
Do you know that conditions may change suddenly in an emergency and you may have to leave at a moment's notice? When a hurricane threatens, you should have a grab-and-go survival kit. This kit should include your personal identification and other vital documents, which should be sealed in a watertight pouch or container. For more tips and information, visit the Hazard Management Cayman Islands office or caymanprepared.ky. This hurricane tip is brought to you by Hazard Management Cayman Islands and Radio Cayman 89.9 FM.
Important customer notice. BAF Insurance would like to advise their valued clients that the BAF Insurance office on Dorsey Drive Industrial Park will be closed on Tuesday, June 14th at 2 p.m. for staff training. BAF Insurance will resume normal business hours at 8:30 a.m. on Wednesday, June 15th. For more information, call 814-2545 or visit mybafsolutions.com.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waging to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back, and thank you very much. And as we invite you to listen, we recognize that it is sometimes a challenging discussion, but the more we informed and aware, that level of, as I say, education helps us to appreciate, the sensitivity. So as we talk about elder abuse and focus on financial abuse, Ms. Tempora Wesley with her social work colleagues at DCFS, Ms. Lucille Borden together with Herlin Giopano. I can only imagine, not only your loving, caring, very nurturing way, but sometimes to be able to go into our communities and to see this, it has to be challenging. And I'm hoping us as a community, not just the siblings, not just the offspring, but as the community, we would consciously look at what is happening and act. Let's not leave it for the police or the politician. Let's do it for, because it's the right thing. God's willing, one day we will grow to be old.
Yes.
But financial abuse, it can be perhaps a little bit more difficult to recognize. Physical abuse is probably a little bit easy. You'll see, the bruise and the break and the like, but financial abuse.
No, there are some red flags that we can take in consideration.
Okay.
And we can share that at this moment, if you may.
Yes, please, Mr.
Okay. There are some red flags that, like shift in family dynamics, or maybe a family member suddenly appears after being absent and some family are preventing the other person contact with the rest of the family.
Mm-hmm.
This person just show up and is taking care of the finances and everything. That can be a red flag. Could be as well, there's a shift in who has responsibility of the household finances and the bills are not being paid.
Okay.
Nobody is paying the bills, even though the older person has the money. But what is the money?
Mm-hmm.
It's just the bills are pile up.
Or even when the bills are paid, but instead of $100 for bill A, you may be a little extra for.
Or if you check the bank account, you can find large withdrawals.
Okay.
And sometimes we get called from banks and they send referral to us regarding all the person. They see unusual activity in the account, maybe something's going on, and we intervene. And also transfer of the other person property. And this is something that really, really touched my heart. You see, after you work all your life, you have your property, and just suddenly you have nothing because you signed a document that you didn't know what you were signing, because somebody that you trust, and you signed over the property, and now you don't have anything, and you have to depend on government to give you a place to live.
Yeah. Can I ask something? And if it's not an opportune time now, perhaps it's something that we could revisit at some point.
Yes.
Only from the perspective that I see it becoming a global trend, seemingly, in the Western democracies, and something that we've started to speak of here. This notion that banks and financial institutions have introduced called reverse mortgages. On the face of it, it sounds like something to consider. No, I don't think so. But you've paid off your mortgage, and in order to get money to live for your remaining lives, then end of the day you get this money up front, and then the bank ends up with your property or someone else. That kind of strikes me as something that needs a little bit further consideration.
Yes, probably.
Yes. Yeah.
But you can see a refinance in the mortgage for this older person. Why this person is refinancing this house?
Yeah.
Is somebody else taking the money? That's a red flag that we need to take, the families need to take in consideration when dealing with the older person. Also, sometimes they have joint bank accounts, and there's another person or there no other family member aware of, and money start disappearing. That can be a red flag as well. And you're going to separate, Tempora, who perpetrates those things? That type of abuse, you will be surprised. It can be family members. It can include sons, daughters, grandchildren, spouses. All of that. Anybody can be a perpetrator. And some of the common factors for the perpetrator to do this sometimes is substance abuse. They're involved in substance abuse, and they need money, or gambling, or even financial problems. And also sometimes it's untreated mental health issues, or sometimes the entitlement part, like I deserve this. When my grandma passed away, I know that money will be mine. Why not taking it now? And that is not right.
It's not yours.
It is not right. It is not yours. We, in many of our cases, when it's financial abuse, we had to work with the police. The police will conduct that part of the investigation, but we are there to support the older person, and that's why we're here today, to tell them you are not alone. We are here for you.
Let me ask, theft, stealing, and like we know is a crime. Whatever you take this,
it is a crime.
And we're saying financial abuse, and I hope nobody don't use it as euphemism, but if you are I use the word loosely, the caregiver, the person who is maybe the son or the sibling, maybe it's the spouse, you're the person that's taking care of this person, and you're taking money in addition to whatever it is. So is that amounting to theft, to stealing as well?
Miss Lucille described it at the beginning. If let's say that you withdraw $200 to buy what? A gallon of milk?
Yeah.
$200 away?
So you went to the supermarket, you spent money and you kept the $50 for yourself for your trouble.
That's not your money.
Yeah. So that's theft, right?
Technically, yes.
Yeah, I mean, that's how I would
That's
see
misappropriation.
at the very least, yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And yet some people don't see that. Oh, well, that's gas money, that's my trouble, that's my...
That's
not right. That's stealing. I mean,
that's
if
how
you...
they justify.
Yeah.
They justify that way by saying it's theirs.
And it's taking advantage of the older person who maybe is unaware of this is going on.
Yeah. And this is something that I think I can understand the passion. I can see why it could irk many of us, because we don't want this to happen to us.
Right.
We wouldn't want it to happen
course.
to the people that we love. But if our society is one that is civil and respectful, we would hopefully not allow this to happen in our communities to any person, whether we know that person or not. We would like the country to have an ethos that this doesn't happen. You know, unconsciously things transpire, and then when you figure it out, oh, geez, let me rectify it. But to be a deliberate act against our elderly,
Taking advantage.
Taking advantage.
Yes.
I wonder to what extent. I mean, I know, Miss Lucille, you shared earlier, and it kind of made me feel hurt in a sense that you're seeing increased incidences of this. Our population is aging, our population is increasing, but if this is happening more and more, I'm sorry, it hurts me.
You know what it is? It's been happening all through the years. Okay. It's just because there's awareness now, it's getting recognized. Once it's recognized and spoke about, people are now realizing it. It's realizing they start reporting. That's just like any kind of abuse, with child abuse, whatever. Any kind of abuse that we know of. Once there's education, once there's awareness made through the department or whoever entity does it, it now starts becoming, oh, wow, I didn't know this. Oh, wow, this was normal to me.
Yeah.
Once upon a time, it was okay for you to spend your parents' money because you lived with them. You took care of them. But now they're realizing, no, you can't just use their money and not work and go use your drugs and take their money and eat their food and so on and so forth and not contribute.
But let me ask, I mean, that is some of the obvious things, but what about us who are taking care of them, whether we're contracted, whether we are the sibling, the spouse, the child, or the like, and from two perspectives, the independence that this elderly person now has lost, mobility, they can't go and buy what they want when they want because they're not driving, maybe they're not walking as much. It's their money, and they may ask you, you know what, today I have a feeling, I want a taste for this thing. Now I am personally, I recognize that in my own space, if my parents ask me for certain things, I'm saying, well, no, I don't think that's healthy today. You had that yesterday. And I question that. I wouldn't buy it for myself, and I won't eat it every day. And I've struggled with that. Why not? They're almost 100 years old. If they want to eat a ton of chocolate today, well, why not? Right. But I feel if I did that, that would be wrong of me, right? But that aside, if they want something and because they can't do it for themselves, is that level of taking away their independence amounting to abuse? It's their money, and you know what? They want this thing. They want ice cream. They want a party. They want...
But it also goes to their level of functioning, too.
Okay.
So if they're capable of making that decision, you know what? Sterling, I want to buy a new couch for the house.
Yeah.
This one's been here 10 years. Can you please go buy it to me? This is the type I want.
Yeah, this is what they want.
You go buy that couch for them because, like you said, they're almost 100 years old. Yeah. They are enjoying their money. They made their money to work for once upon a time. So if they say go buy this couch and it's $3,000, well, Mom, I found this couch for, I don't want you to waste the money, whatever.
Yeah.
I found this couch for $1,500. It's almost the same. Do you want this one? You give them options.
Okay.
If they say no, I want that one, and they're logically thinking, then say, yes, sure, I'll go get it if they have the money and they have the means.
Yeah, I appreciate that because, I mean, you would do that as a functioning independent adult.
Right.
Listen, this is my money. I can't take it with me.
Correct. You can't take it away from them.
Right.
So if they want to spend it now, let them spend it now.
Enjoy.
As long as you know that there's something to fall back on for the next 10 years if they live to 110. You don't want
you
to
go.
save everything because you wanted them to enjoy it. But at the
Yeah.
same time, if they have to mention Alzheimer's, 1 minute they're telling you this, next minute they're telling you that, yeah, you're going to be really cautious on how you spend your money.
Yeah. But I see the fine line for those of us who are loving and doting and caring, but then the obvious abuses. After this quick break, can we talk about ways to prevent it? I mean, we can recognize it.
Yes,
we see the red flags.
We're going to address that
but
as well.
prevention is better than cure, they say. Can we talk about that?
Sure.
All right. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
For medical lab services in Cayman, go straight to MedLab.
For a full range of medical services, pleasant, clean and comfortable environment, no long lines and affordable fees, visit MedLab at the Smith Road Plaza. Open Monday to Friday, 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. and half day on Saturdays. Call 949-7331 to make your appointment.
For medical lab services in Cayman, MedLab.
Ask our professional team about the benefits of cutting-edge technology with MedLab's new state-of-the-art digital mammogram machine.
Busy, busy, busy. Feel like there's not just enough hours in the day. Savannah Pharmacy, service to make your life easier. Now you can WhatsApp your prescription order to 929-5045. And pickup is just around the corner with everything your family needs and convenient opening hours including Sundays and holidays. WhatsApp your prescription order to 929-5045. Savannah Pharmacy, wholesome values with modern conveniences.
Your Radio Cayman 6 p.m. news, Monday through Friday, is brought to you by Logic. Your life connected.
I am Rashana Hydes, your Miss World Cayman Islands. The Miss World Cayman Islands 3rd Annual EnviroWalk 5K is on Sunday, June 26th, 6:30 a.m. at Safe Haven. Join us and encourage others to help achieve a more sustainable future. I'm racing against His Excellency the Governor. I'm planning to win, but maybe I'll be nice and let him finish first. Register now on ticketsplus.ky. For corporate discounts and more information on EnviroWalk, contact missworldcayman@gmail.com.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waging to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back, and thank you very much for joining us. And thanks too for sitting and reflecting. And I know that, thank God, we have some very loving and nurturing people in their communities. They may not be family, but they're as close as they can be. I'm glad that through the Department of Children and Family Services, social workers like our panelists looking after the services team remind us. So to Miss Lucy, Mr. Tempora, and Miss Hurlin, thank you very much. This is an emotive topic. And this causes many of us to reflect and wonder, I wonder what I'm doing, could amount to a level of abuse in a sense. What may have seemed like a very simple example, but your parents are asking you for a particular food item. It may not be healthy, and you think you're doing right, but are you denying them a little treat? People may say, well, that's nothing wrong with that. You wouldn't give your little children candies all day long, but here's a different child. And to our callers, because of the topic, we're not going to field in the calls during this segment, but we'll share with you how you can. I was asking, though, prevention, are there ways, we recognize it, but are there ways to prevent it?
Yes, there are ways to help prevent financial abuse. So one way is to increase social activity and social support for the older person.
Mm-hmm.
So in cases for the older person that they are bedridden, all you need to do is inform their charge so that they can come and visit the older person. And then being the child or one of the family members, you need to check on them, not only once in a blue moon, but make sure that every day, if you cannot visit them personally, you can use the phone, try to call them and check how they are doing. The other one is that if your mom or your grandmother has a bank account, you need to encourage her not to have a joint account. It should be multiple signatures appearing in the bank account to make sure that every members in the family are aware where her or her money goes And then about the withdrawal, it should not be one person who's going to manipulate about the withdrawals of her or his money. The other one is that if you are an older person and you feel that you can no longer manage the responsibilities of your home, then you need to make a decision that I'm going to sell my home. Don't wait that you will reach 75 or in the point that you can no longer make a sound decision before you're going to make a decision. So while you can still make a sound decision, sell your home and then move into a residential home. Yeah. And then aside from that, you can also prepare an advanced care plan. So have your children involved, make plan what you want to happen, everything in there, so that by the time that you will have dementia, it's already there. All they need to do is just follow what are being stated in the advanced care plan. And then make sure also to write a will. Like, some people will say, oh, I'm not rich, I don't have enough property, so I don't want to write a will. But even though you have $10,000 or $5,000, you still need to write a will. Like, for example, okay, this money should go to this, and this money is for this. So you don't need to be rich in order for you to write a will, and then make sure that you will have register the will. And then impose a trustworthy power of attorney and make sure to involve other trusted family members in the conversation, and then make a decision to choose the power of attorney.
See, this is where I think, many as I listen to you, will. Some of us at 30 won't, at 60 we won't, at 90 we won't, because of our perhaps misgivings and preconceptions and the like. But it's just good planning that we know, but we don't. I think this is where, if there are extended family members or their siblings or their children, that we have these discussions. It is challenging. It can be very emotive, and just to think of it. But then, Ms. Lucy, at the end of the day, it may help in so many ways, especially for that loved one that we're trying to ensure.
More and more common nowadays.
Okay.
Whether people are participating in the living will and so on and so forth, and advanced care planning and stuff like that. We're trying to encourage that as well. That's also something that we are trying to promote to help the elderly in our country. And because, like you said, 30, 60, we don't ever know when our time is. When we have children, we have family, we have to plan ahead. So it's important for us to do that at any point, and hopefully that, and it's changeable. That's a good thing. So if your circumstances change, you could actually change it before you get, because not everybody's going to get dementia or Alzheimer's or stroke or whatever. But if we do, at least we know that it's there up until the point that we were still able to make our decisions.
And as you listen to you're sharing, the more that we engage our elderly, as social awareness, as social activity, not only will that stay evolved, perhaps some of these things, but to give them a little bit more fulfillment in their lives, and maybe us as a wider community a little bit more socially conscious and aware if there is something that is transpiring that is unsettling, to put it at the least. If anyone's listening and they want information, perhaps they just want to be a little bit more understanding, a little bit more informed, what's the best way to go about it, Mr. Tempora?
Yes. Something before I share in the number, I want to say, if you suspect that an older person is being financially abused, please do something. Do something. We need to protect them. There are cases where the little money they receive from the poor relief, people are being taking advantage of that. If you know that those things are happening, please let us know. If the caregiver is taking advantage, please let us know. You can call our department, 949-0290, Department of Children and Family Services, 949-0290, and we have social workers that will go and investigate. We mentioned previously that we do cases with the police. You can contact the police as well. Some cases we cannot do it only us. We have to engage the police as well. But please, do something. Protect the older person in your community.
We know that's what we would want for us, and we know that's what we want. So sometimes just reaching out and asking to clarify, but also to ensure that we are responding properly.
Yes.
It's a changing world, and it's becoming increasingly difficult.
Most definitely.
Well, I appreciate you taking time to share with us, and as we celebrate, World Elder Abuse Awareness Day tomorrow specifically, that today's discussion may cause us to look more closely at what we may have ignored, what we may be unsure of, or what we may actually know, and for whatever reason won't act on it. Perhaps call 949-0290 and see where it takes us.
We will go and do a welfare check.
All right.
We're going to be there on your side.
Yeah. There you go. Any closing thoughts, Ms. Lucille, you may want to leave with our listeners?
It's just that we all have to look out for the elders in our community. And as you said earlier, it's a growing population. And unfortunately, if we don't do it, nobody's going to do it. So we need to continue to be on the side looking out for the elders.
We are in this, all together. Ms. Harding, what about you? Any thoughts you may want to remind or share with our listeners in closing?
Okay. I just want to remind everyone that if you have older person or parents or grandmother, please find time to visit them. Don't wait for them to get sick or to call you or to die before you will have time to see them. It's really important. They will be very happy if you will find time to see them, to check on them, even through phones or just, once a week visit if you're really so busy with your work.
And Mr. Bora?
That's beautiful. We need to take care of our older persons. They are ready. These great things for us. This is the time now for us to return all of the good things that they did. Let's protect them.
You know what? Thank you. It makes me, reflect on my own views, and perhaps a nice bowl of ice cream would be a treat. Why not? Even that, denying them.
Take them out to get ice cream.
Take them out.
They took you out once upon a time to get ice cream.
That's right. 3 flavors, and you had 4 scoops, and you ate it.
Don't make me hungry.
Maybe they deserve it too.
So they'll have a nice little treat.
There you go. Thank you all very much, and I'm trusting as a community that we reflect, and as Ms. Hurley, as you shared, don't wait until you're at the graveside. Do it now before they're at their bedside.
Absolutely.
And go and enjoy it. Thank you all.
Thank you so much for having us today.
All right, we're going to pause and take a break, and when we return, our friends from the Lighthouse School will tell us about a concert they have upcoming. And then 1:30, the visiting professor from the Akiyaville campus, together with, other luminaries, will be our guests. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
Today's biggest news.
Radio Cayman. Your voice, your choice. Local, regional, international. This is Headlines from Radio Cayman's newsroom. Today's biggest news.
With your latest headlines, I'm Felicia Rankin-Solins. The Cayman Islands Center for Business Development, a government department created to support the development of micro and small businesses, will host the first in a series of discussions dubbed Raising Capital. The first discussion will focus on what makes a small business fundable and is scheduled for Thursday, June 23, 2022, 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. at the Grand Cayman Marriott Beach Resort. The events will be open to the public. Those interested in attending may visit cicbd.gov.ky for further information. In international news, the EU is expected to launch legal action against the UK government on Wednesday over its decision to scrap some post-Brexit trade arrangements. Ministers insist current checks on some goods travelling from Great Britain to Northern Ireland must end to avoid harm to the peace process. They published a parliamentary bill on Monday aimed at overriding parts of the deal signed with the EU in 2020. But Brussels says going back on the arrangement breaks international law. The Northern Ireland Protocol is the part of the Brexit deal which keeps Northern Ireland in the EU's single market for goods. The World Health Organization says it is working with experts to come up with a new name for monkeypox. It comes after more than 30 scientists wrote last week about the urgent need for a non-discriminatory and non-stigmatizing name for the virus and the disease it causes. Continued reference to the virus as African is both inaccurate and discriminatory, they said. Some 1,600 cases of the disease have been recorded globally in recent weeks. These are your headlines. I'm Felicia Rankin-Zollins.
For the latest in news and information,
follow Radio Cayman on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Download the Radio Cayman app or log on to our website, radiocayman.gov.ky.
For medical lab services in Cayman, go straight to MedLab.
For a full range of medical services, pleasant, clean and comfortable environment, no long lines and affordable fees, visit MedLab at the Smith Road Plaza. Open Monday to Friday, 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. and half day on Saturdays. Call 949-7331 to make your appointment.
For medical lab services in Cayman, MedLab.
Ask our professional team about the benefits of cutting-edge technology with MedLab's new state-of-the-art digital mammogram machine.
Ransomware, DDoS, malware, phishing. If you don't know what those mean, you're not alone. But if you aren't protected against those cybersecurity attacks, then your business is at risk. Don't leave your data or your business vulnerable. Get Digicel Business Protect. Simpler, smarter cybersecurity. Visit our website, www.digicelbusiness.com, to request a callback or call us now on 623-2499.
It's Cash Whiz Cayman Kids Got Talent Show
2022.
Calling all kids 11 to 17 years to showcase their God-given talent and win cash and prizes. Registration ends June 18 and forms are available at your schools in Cash Whiz Cayman. Limited space, so register now. Cash Whiz Cayman Kids Got Talent
2022.
Call for more information 321-7274 or 927-6352.
Karl Landsteiner was honored with the Nobel Peace Prize for developing the ABO system of human blood grouping in 1930. World Blood Donor Day is June 14th, saluting Karl's birthday. On behalf of our community, we, Rotary Club Central, thank you, the staff of the National Blood Bank. We thank you, our heroes, blood donors. Every day becomes World Blood Donor Day for we who need that pint to live. Call the National Blood Bank 244-2674 or 244-2669. Donating blood is an act of solidarity. When blood is needed, nothing else will do. A message from Rotary Central and the Cayman Blood Donor Service. Rotary serves to change lives.
Celebrate the Queen's Platinum Jubilee in time with a special look here on Saturday, 14th of May.
The Cayman Islands National Museum is hosting a fun interactive event in honor of Her Majesty's 70-year reign.
That's right.
Come along and witness the official reveal of the Miss Annie Huldebutton animatronic. Join the museum at the open-air, family-friendly event on Goring Avenue from 10 a.m. until 2 p.m.
Okay.
Sample delicious local food and sweet treats. Enjoy live performances and take home handwork from local artisans. Enjoy the museum's Queen Jubilee.
Look here.
And see a moving likeness of another great lady. For more details, visit museum.ky.
Yeah, you don't want to miss that one.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waging to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back. Thank you very much for joining us. And this is where I think our community is not just healthy, but it's strengthened when we draw alongside each other and we recognize that together we do great things. And when we see the continued work over the Lighthouse School, from the parents to the educators to the wider community, from the corporate sponsors to all of our partners, it gets us to appreciate that we have such an invaluable resource. So as we talk about an upcoming concert, this Saturday, I think it's important to be able to allow our guests a chance to share and to shine and to appreciate. Now, Ms. Dorothy, I don't think that sometimes we understand that what is now the Lighthouse School from its early beginnings, the impetus, but the importance of it. And I don't know that the community understands what is this like. So, Ms. Laura Bryan, perhaps together with you and Ms. Dorothy, maybe you can share with us, for those who don't know, what is Lighthouse School?
Currently, Lighthouse School is a special needs school. I don't know much about the history so much because I've only been there for the last 4 years. So we're a special needs school. We're located right next to Red Bay School. So we have lots of different students with different needs, but also a lot of children with autism. And so the event that we're running is around autism, raising awareness and acceptance of people with autism.
And this is we hear much about autism. We just yesterday I had a chance to speak to Tony Mack about upcoming strongman competition, and we're talking about how here in today's age on the global stage, you got a competitor who's autistic, but you don't need to assign a label that will preclude someone. You can achieve a success, and just like you're tall, you're short, just like you're from West Bay or West End, you can still achieve great things if you have the nurturing support and the opportunities. So, Ms. Dorothy, when we look at the Lighthouse School, we look at the event on Saturday, it's for the wider community to take another look and understand that in this community, we need to draw alongside to be as nurturing and supportive. So it's 4 o'clock on Saturday?
4 o'clock on Saturday, yes. And it's going to be, Lighthouse School is going to be putting on a special family-friendly talent show, talent concerts, because our kids have a lot of talent. But we're going to be using performers from our own school, from Lighthouse School. So our students are going to be performing, as well as supporters from the community. So it's going to be a variety of performers. And so please come out, everybody, and support the students, support Lighthouse School. It's all in celebration. Raise awareness, but also celebrate autism. So our theme for this event is...
The theme for the event?
It's a celebration of autism. So we are... celebrating
the awesomeness of autism.
Yes.
Yeah. And that's, as you had shared with me with respect to the team, I think that's the importance, because I think too many times as we look at things and we put labels, there's always a negativity to it. And knowing your theme, the awesomeness of autism, made me reflect on what Tony Mack was sharing yesterday. Here you have a physically strong individual competing on the global stage, and not just succeeding, but celebrating and serving as an example that no matter what, you can attain great things given the opportunity and the proper training and a nourishing environment. So for Saturday, it's at Camana Bay, is it?
It's at the Crescent at Camana Bay. Starts at 4 o'clock. In addition to the concert, it's going to be a fun day. So we're going to be having activities there for the students. So like arts and crafts. We're going to have a sensory corner. We're going to have face painting. So it's going to be a lot of fun for the family.
It's a free admission, right?
Free admission, yes.
Now, I know you always have some great raffle prizes and all kinds of things going on.
Yes, that's right. We're selling T-shirts. Our goal is to raise money to help the needs of our children, our autistic children. And so, we're going to be selling T-shirts. The adult T-shirts are $25, and the children's T-shirts are $20. We're also selling face masks for $5. Now, these T-shirts were all designed by Lighthouse School students. They do have a lot of talent, so we're asking people to come out and sponsor us, yes.
And they are, not just quality T-shirts, but as you shared, showcases their talent. And I think that is something that we need to sort of step aside and reflect that there's so much talent here, and yet we almost take it for granted in a sense. I don't think we do that disrespectfully. We just we don't see it, and yet when we look at other societies that may be financially more affluent or larger populations, or we think are this, that, and the other in the sense of better, we don't see what we have. And this is why I think the Lighthouse School is a testament to what a community can do with public and private support, and give our students something that helps them to excel. Now, I don't know, Ms. Laura, it's remarkable to see your students, to see them, not just the joy, but the way that they're excited, but the way that they motivate you through their enthusiasm. They love life.
They do, and I think it's important what you said, both about it being about community, because I think what we want to achieve is that the community is inclusive. so that the talents of our students are not wasted. Because, I mean, it's quite possible that a lot of very important people who changed the world had autism. Like, a lot of people think Einstein had autism, and a lot of famous people through history. Like, it is, you know, it comes with difficulties, but it also comes with gifts as well. And I think there's been a lot of talk about the difficulties that people with autism have, but we want to celebrate the gifts as well and what they have to contribute to a society. But it does involve everybody. It is about the community, because people have to step up and support these people to get into work and support these people to contribute to society, as they have a right to do, as we all have a right to make a positive contribution to society. So it is about everybody, you know, being inclusive and accepting what we all have to offer. Like, none of us are perfect. We all need support. We all need help. And we all need each other. And people with autism are no different.
And that's the thing. I don't believe sometimes that we are cognizant of the challenges that we ourselves have, or why certain people may be experiencing or responding to something in a certain way. Historically, we can go back and say, well, this may have been the case with this one, and this one. But that's historically. What about the now, while this thing is unfolding and transpiring in the lives of our children, you know, our friends and co-workers, children, and the friends of our children as well. And now that we appreciate the impact, we can celebrate the awesomeness. We can draw alongside them. I think this is why Saturday allows for an education and awareness, but also to look and realize, you know what, that's us. We're more alike than we are different, they say. So the differences can be celebrated and embraced. For Saturday, from that perspective, I can think of the face beating. I can think of back to other activities. I remember, if you guys don't mind me saying, you know, Jamo one time. You know, there was a nice little cooking event up there, and you see how the fun, but you also see the talent, and yet we take that for granted, but we don't see how important it is. Just like the Sunrise Adult Training Center has done for, you know, our other members of our community, giving them that independence, but allowing them to see that they're loved, that they are, you know, in some cases excelling, you know, more than some was, because they don't have that passion, that drive, right, Mr. Arthur?
Yeah, and we do have some of the children who actually volunteered and said they want to do a poem, or they want to do a dance, or they wanted to do a song. It's their interest and it's their talent, it's what they're good at. So imagine when they go out there and the crowd are there and we're all cheering them on, how good it makes that person feel to look. We are giving them an opportunity to showcase what they're able to do, because there are people out there that will think that. They often sometimes ask me, do you have all children in wheelchairs? Are they able to do it? So it's a good way really to educate the public and to say, look, these children do have talent, and we want to showcase their talent. And we also want to drive into their interests. So if a child get up there and say, I want to perform in front of everybody, and then we're all there and cheering them on, that's going to make that person feel really, really good, you know, and and feel like they've achieved something. Look, I can do it. Right. And this could excel onto something. You never know what career they might take from there. You never know. So
and what it shows is that all of our children experience the same level of excitement and the same level of, well, maybe I'm a little bit shy and reticent because there's so many people. It's no different from the boy to the girl to the 8-year-old to the 14-year-old. They're young people, and if they all have that love and that encouragement, that sense of support, then they'll go and overcome and excel and achieve and attain and succeed, and then be motivated and encouraged, and then their self-esteem. The next thing you know, Miss Dorothy, they're Nobel laureates because they've been given that opportunity.
Yes.
All right. So for us as a community, you're making it easy. It's accessible. It's a free admission. We can win a prize if we buy some of the raffle tickets, but we can show our support and recognize the differences. What do you want the wider community to do and to take away as they come Saturday and be a part of the concert? What is it that you're hoping, perhaps, Ms. Laura, that we start to recognize and see, maybe see for the first time or see again as we interact with your students?
I think, like we said, it is about understanding that people with autism, it is a spectrum. There's all kinds of different people who have autism. A lot of people might not be diagnosed until they're in their 40s or their 50s, but all of these people, whether they're diagnosed as children or adulthood, they all have talents, they all have something to contribute, And that might be those that are very gifted and are able to contribute, for example, in technology. There's a lot of people with autism in technology. But then there's also, we have students at Lighthouse School who maybe are not going to excel in that way, but they still have something to contribute to the community. And it's about the community opening their arms to those people and realizing that, yes, they do have things to contribute. Yes, they are talented. Yes, they do deserve to be celebrated, as we all do. I mean, like you said, all children are passionate, and children with autism can be particularly passionate. And it's about celebrating that and celebrating the passion that we all have inside of us.
Something that I wonder about, that we do inadvertently from a lack of understanding and knowledge about something, that through our actions, very perhaps innocently, unconsciously, we may exclude, we may believe that, oh, well, since that person is this height and the shelf is at this height, well, they can't reach it. So we impose little obstacles without meaning to. Or we may say, well, that person can't do this because of, without giving them an opportunity. Hopefully Saturday we'll look with fresh eyes and go, anything is possible. You just need the opportunity. Right, Mr. Arthur?
That's so true, yes. Like Ms. Laura was just saying, I mean, every child has something to offer, and everybody wants to be appreciated and loved. And yes. And so, and to feel like I can do this, I can achieve. We always say never to any child. Never put any child down. Give every child a chance to achieve, to succeed, and give them every opportunity, the best opportunity you can, to let them achieve their goals. So being out there, we want to really educate the public. We want the kids, like we said, to really be, for everybody to be aware of what these children are able to do, what they're able to offer, and the talents that they're able to do and that they have. And to give them an opportunity just to showcase them and to feel good about themselves, build their confidence. Like you said, does so much for them, and they can go places with this as well. So
that's right.
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
We limit ourselves, by our own sort of self-imposed, beliefs that we can't. And you imagine if that's compounded by what the society tells us. So if we flip the script and get our people to, hey, listen, you can do this. And I'm here to support you. And each step just builds, higher and higher on the ladder. A friend showed me a graphic recently, 2 ladders extending into the heavens. One, very, very small step so you can easily move. And the other, the rungs in the ladder are probably, taller than the individual climbing. You can't reach the first one because it's 10 feet off the ground. And the other ladder, the steps are placed, 3 or 4 inches apart. The importance of small steps. And this could be a small step that is so significant. So being present on Saturday may show that. I really appreciate your continued love and service and dedication, and hopefully as a community we sort of reflect on it and understand that whether we're consciously doing it or not, maybe we are causing others to feel that they're not able to attain because they don't see us being physically present. So for Saturday, 4 o'clock?
4 o'clock at the Crescent at Cayman Bay, starting at 4. And I want everybody to know that we also have a band. So please bring out your dancing shoes. We're going to have a great time. You're going to be exposed to a lot of entertainment, fun things, poetry, dance, songs. We're going to have a great time, and then we're going to dance in the middle and at the end. And it's all to raise awareness and all to celebrate the awesomeness of autism, which is our theme. And we pray that everybody will come out and support us. And we want to raise funds again for the autism needs. We're looking at like the sensory garden, sensory equipment for the autistic children, communication devices, field trips, various community events that they go to. So we're praying and asking everybody to come out and support and have a great time. And again, to help to build these children confidence, but at the same time also to let people aware this is what our children can do.
Our children.
Our children can do. They're all a part of community. We all want to feel involved. We want to feel, part of accepted.
The more that we are consciously aware, informed, the more we appreciate that, through that we can contribute. And I'm very grateful to you. It's, as I think Ms. Laura shared, they can be very enthusiastic and energetic, but that's what we want, right? We want them to be moving and thinking and going and achieving and recognizing that they're only limited by their imaginations. We don't need to put any impediments. We need to draw alongside. So 4 o'clock on Saturday.
4 o'clock on Saturday.
I think we want to say thank you as well, because we've had lots of people who have already supported us. So we've got the Water Authority, CUC, Tricor, and Maples. They've been kind of long-term supporters of us, but we've also had a lot of new people who've come on board this year that have helped us make this concert possible, because it does take a little bit of money to get the stage in and get all the acts and get everything together. And Dart and Camana Bay have kindly sponsored the staging for us, and Camana Bay are allowing us to use their premises for free. So it's taken it is a real community event, and I think it's really nice that you can see it, that there is a good community spirit here. The number of people who've given us prizes for the raffles, the number of people who have given us sponsorship, it's just been great, and we really appreciate the fact that we are part of a community here, and that everybody has kind of stepped forward and helped us to make this possible.
And like we said, we want to make sure that everybody is aware that there are lots of prizes. If you buy the T-shirts and the mask, you get a raffle ticket, lots of great prizes, and the grand prize is $500 gift certificate to Kempton.
CI.
CI, that's right, CI.
No, but and I'm glad, because not just the demonstrated corporate support, but the community's engagement, from the parents and the volunteers, for us recognizing that if we draw alongside, we make a positive difference. And that student performing on stage now, maybe one day published somewhere or internationally being revered because of the accomplishment. But even if it isn't, that love that they feel now will position them to be an invaluable member of our community. And that's why I think it's important that you have this, and hopefully we come out and be a part of it.
Definitely.
All right. Well, thanks so much. We're glad to be a part of what you're doing, and I commend you for your continued strength and resolve. So, Ms. Laura, enjoy the rest of your week as well.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you, everyone, and we look forward to seeing you on Saturday.
And get a beautiful, beautiful T-shirt, man. The quality is amazing. They wear nicely, and they cause us. So you can get the tank top, or you can get the one with the sleeves as well, right? The T-shirt one.
Yes.
Dive deep into autism
acceptance.
Yeah.
And then we have the mask with all the different colors.
Yep.
All designed by our talented students at Lighthouse School.
and they are amazing. They are incredibly talented. I don't think if we don't know, this might be a good way for us to reflect that sometimes there are limitations that our children across the board that they feel, because we as adults, and sometimes even as the parents and teachers and their mentors and sponsors, inadvertently impose upon them. You're a child, No, we just need to recognize. Right, Ms. Laura? All right.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
All right. Thank you very, very much. So this Saturday, 4 o'clock at the Crescent in Camana Bay, be a part of, as we celebrate the awesomeness of autism with the Lighthouse School. A wonderful concert. And I'm hoping for a great turnout, but people to be educated, informed, and consciously aware of how we interact with each other. Looking forward to hearing good things from you.
Thank you so much.
All right.
I will be there, rain or shine, so come and join us.
Yes, we will have a tent if it's going to. We're just preparing ourselves just in case, so please come out.
We'll still be there.
We'll still be there.
They said rain, doesn't mean that the sun doesn't shine. You might see it, but the spirit and our souls are celebrated every day, so let's celebrate together.
We can party in the rain.
Yeah. It's the best time, man. A true wet fet.
You're right.
All right, well, when we come back from the break, we want you to rejoin us because we have a wonderful discussion slated. Stay home and stay tuned.
A caring and community spirit, cherished family and cultural values. These are some of the things that still embodies the Caymanian way of life in the eastern districts today. Savannah Pharmacy, your neighborhood pharmacy, located in Countryside Shopping Village, is delighted to offer products and services of real value. Whether it's catering to your family's medical needs or carrying apparel, gifts, and beauty products, Savannah Pharmacy provides you with more than just prescriptions. Remember, they're always just around the corner with everything your family needs and convenient opening hours, including Sundays and holidays. Savannah Pharmacy. For more information, call 946-3336.
For medical lab services in Cayman, go straight to MedLab. Blood test, x-ray, and mammogram, all of that is MedLab. Affordable fees and friendly service, a full professional team. MedLab is always comfortable, MedLab is always clean. For medical lab services in Cayman, MedLab.
Call 949-7331 and ask about MedLab's new state-of-the-art digital mammogram machine.
If you care about your car's performance and fuel economy, you must fill up at Jose's Escape with the new Pier 93. Experts know that the higher the octane rating, the better your engine will perform. Pier 93 is the highest octane fuel available in Cayman. Protect your car against pre-ignition and engine knocks. Top up your tank now with Pier 93 at Jose's Rubis and enter to win an awesome track bike. But there's more. Jose's offers 2 lateral flow test kits for only $10. The best KN95 masks, 2 for $5. And 10 stylish black surgical masks are only $5. Share the love. Purchase Reflections gift certificates and enter to win the amazing Trek bike. Subway makes it easy for you to stay on top of your health and wellness goals with our Fresh Fit menu options. Choose from 5 Fresh Fit Subway sandwiches with only 450 calories or less per 6-inch sub. Turkey breast, veggie, oven roasted chicken, black forest ham, sweet onion chicken teriyaki, or make your 6-inch Fresh Fit sub into a salad or wrap prepared with fresh vegetables. For a full menu and nutritional information, visit subway.ky. Subway, eat fresh.
89.9 Radio Cayman helps you to weather the storm during this hurricane season.
One of the most crucial elements of hurricane preparedness is storm awareness. During the season, it is of utmost importance to pay attention to the latest local weather forecast, as hurricanes do not suddenly form or strike. There are various methods of advanced notification. Utilizing such may be the difference between a favorable outcome and disaster. Both television and radio serve as excellent mediums with up-to-the-minute storm path information in the wake of a hurricane. Another method of tracking a hurricane may be only arm's length away. Your smartphone or tablet can be your most valuable tool before, during, and after a storm, providing countless numbers of apps with crucial hurricane information. Many apps allow you to track storms with moving radar and satellite imagery, plus offer alerts, current conditions, forecasts, advisories, and even video.
This hurricane preparedness tip was brought to you by your community radio station, Radio Cayman 89.9 FM.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Good afternoon and welcome back, and thanks very much for joining us. And I think as we celebrate the sort of academic progress of many in our community, I think we would quickly harken back to, for West Bay, people like Miss Genevieve, and when we think of Mrs. Z. But we go across the entire country, we see the celebrated successes of our early educators. And I think day to day would be proud of many, but if I may say, Mr. Roy Borden epitomizes the notion of intellect, of academic study, of the need to challenge the thought processes. And I'm honored that through the University College, I say it publicly and it may sound political, but I take my licks if it comes. One day we'll have the University of Cayman Islands, and on there'll be a school of engineering, a school of law, a school of medicine, and all the schools that fall within a proper university setting. But maybe that'll happen when I become governor. That's my political statement for today.
How dare you leave out Miss Evie from Bordentown?
Okay.
Miss Mary from Bordentown. Let's just start where we need to go.
Hang on. And therein lies the importance of academic discourse, because I was going, somebody asked and say something leading that may cause others to be so inspired. And as I was going to introduce my guests, I was going to first start with Ms. Teresa Lewis-Pitcairn, because I know, and I say this with great deference though, not just those present, but you have always been a champion for education. And through your own study, have recognized the service and sacrifice of our educators. And like I said, just in West Bay alone, but I would want to travel to other districts. We've had in our communities individuals like Miss Evie and the likes who not just stood tall, but were insistent that we look at education to be inclusive and empowering, to be that thing that we're meant to equalize. So, Ms. Teresa, perhaps through you, would we do the honors before you introduce Ms. Latoya and Ms. Eubanks? Perhaps our visiting professor. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. He's my little sweetie.
See that? She says little, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
and that's no. It's not intended to.
No, I just teasing you.
Yeah, yeah. We've known for. In as much as I'm gonna try to kick it off today, when we had our round robin discussions this morning, we elected Mario actually to do some of the introductory work with respect to the committee. So. Yeah. Thanks very much, Dwayne.
Always a
pleasure.
pleasure.
But I will pass it on to Mario.
Well, Mr. Eubanks would probably say that if the other Mr. Bush was president, if I won an election, but we're not going there today.
Not today. Thank you very much, though. Thank you very much for having us, Radio Cayman. It's good to be here. Always good to come on Radio Cayman. And so today, what we want to try to do is talk about the event that we're having this evening, the book launch. We want to also talk about our committee, who are the members and the kind of objectives of the committee, and obviously introduce our esteemed guest speaker who comes all the way from Barbados via St. Lucia. And then we want to also engage in some of the aspects of our book. And we also have a book to present to you, which we'll do later on. Ms. Latoya, one of the authors, one of the contributors, will present to you. But first of all, could I just say that the committee that we are representing today is a committee for the promotion of research in Cayman scholarship. And the purpose of that committee is through symposia. And we know we had a symposium last year, and that's really the genesis of the book. We had a symposium that actually dealt with interrogating the work of Mr. J.A. Roy Bodden. And various presenters did papers, and so that symposium then was held for that purpose. And a vast majority of the papers and presentations from that symposium is actually in the book as essays in honor of J.A. Roy Bodden, which Ms. Latoya will speak to later. But the purpose of our committee is to introduce new ideas, deepen critical thinking on the issues of the day, and add to the growing body of academic literature in the Cayman Islands. The Committee for the Promotion of Research in Cayman Scholarship also aspires to contribute to academic research and the mentorship of potential Caymanian writers. So whereas this book and the symposium last year was in relation to Mr. Roy Bodden, in future we could be dealing with other luminaries and academics and people in our community. And so in so doing, the committee hopes to contribute to the development and evolution of these islands. Founding members of the committee, some are here today, Ms. Teresa Pitcairn, Dr. Stephanie Fullerton Cooper, Ms. Latoya Francis, who's also here, Professor Livingston Smith, Ms. McKenna Scott, who's a PhD candidate, Dr. Kadisha Swearing, myself, Mario Eubanks, and also Mr. W.H. Billy Adam. So that basically gives you the overview of the committee. And if I have another couple minutes, I can just talk about our guest speaker. So when we were contemplating this book launch, Teresa Pitcairn to my right here was adamant that we need to get a female, and the committee wholeheartedly.
If you want it done right,
wholeheartedly agreed with that. And we went to the top, not just respect to our esteemed guest speaker, we went to the very top in the Caribbean. We went to Prime Minister Mia Mottley. And we almost got her, but we couldn't, so we went just a little bit below. And we got the...
Sideways.
Yeah.
I think you probably went better.
Well, I'm not going to argue that. But we went and we got somebody who is excellent. And so our guest speaker, Professor Cynthia Barrow Giles, is a esteemed writer. She co-authored and edited and co-edited 4 books and a number of journal articles. She is, as you'll see from the publications we've been putting out, she's a graduate of Consortium Graduate School in Mona, Jamaica, and she's served as the Deputy Dean of the Faculty of Social Sciences and UWI Cave Hill, and the former head of Department of Government Sociology and Social Work at the Cave Hill campus. As says, she authored a number of books and also edited. And among her publications, she did Introduction to Caribbean Politics, Texts and Readings. She did Living at the Borderlines, Issues in Caribbean Sovereignty and Development. And in addition to her writing, which again includes things like Caribbean sovereignty and development, she also, in the general elections, she was sent as an observer, and she's also the editor of Women in the Caribbean Politics. That's another publication. But like I say, in addition to her scholarship work, she has participated in a number of election monitoring and expert groups in Asia, Africa, and the Caribbean. She served as a member of the St. Lucia Constitution Reform Commission from 2005 to 2011, and she's a member of the International Advisory Board for the Journal Roundtable Commonwealth and the editorial board of the Journal of Eastern Caribbean Affairs. So, you know, the Committee for the Promotion of Research in Cayman Scholarship is honored to have her as a guest speaker at our book launch this evening. And when you think about the book that we have, which Ms. Latoya will speak to in a bit, that we are making available to the public for 25 CI dollars. Basically, 2.5 gallons of gasoline. And to have a book of this nature in your business, in your home, or for your children. And on top of that, have someone like the professor who is here to speak to us and engage in discussions and Q&A. It is a fantastic value for money, but not just money, but it's building of our society and our country. So I think the committee is keen to get this work out in the community and keen to grow as well. And I'm very happy to be joined by this panel today and again by the professor. And thank you so much for the opportunity to introduce the event and the professor.
Well, the event is this evening. But Ms. Teresa.
Yeah, just one. And I know that Mario rightly highlighted all of your achievements. But I want to say it's the way in which you actually came into the community. You came in with a welcoming spirit. You had that moral intensity, the ease with which you just you just became one of us. Mm-hmm. And I'd really like to spotlight that about you as well. Yeah.
Well, let me just say thank you. She's making me blush, but I appreciate it.
You know, I'm honored, Professor, you join us, because I think sometimes we can, before any sort of presentation, whether you're conducting an interview, you're in front of your students, whether you're a coach, you know, do certain things to prepare. But there's also something that Ms. Teresa picked up on that is evident. We bring with us a spirit. Is it a winning, loving spirit? Is it one that is full of contention and the like? And I commend her for highlighting that, because that's important. The humility that we have should transcend any academic progress that we think we possess or any position that we do. And I think as we look at the transformation that we're seeing in democracies, I say this again, politically inspired, we have what could amount, if it was a few decades in the past, politicians today, the gentleman in Canada, for instance, and even in France, looking more like despots than they are as democratic leaders. And maybe as we ask about the academic sort of theoretical approach to governance, maybe at some point I may be inclined to ask your perspective on some of that. But just maybe.
She gonna play the fire too, though, you know?
Yeah, she does.
I've seen a few things.
Some days.
Well, if she like my Bayesian friends, that fire is always evident. But what is it like sometimes? Let's start at the beginning. We have that inquiry in mind as a student. We come into a classroom. There are those of us who will gravitate to certain classes. If we like sociology and political engagement, we may find classes. Then there are some that are academic and mundane because we just need to understand what is transpiring. But then there's a thing that resonates within our soul that causes us to become thought leadership, I think is the phrase Ms. Steve Banks introduced me to some centuries past. So, Professor, from that perspective, how do we get a wider community to appreciate that this evening isn't about academia, as is much about political democracies being healthy and championed?
That is a biggie. But let me just say that one of the things I believe that is very important, not only to just academics, but anyone who aspires to lead, is to really be in a position where you can actually contribute to people's knowledge, to heighten their awareness of what is taking place, and to ensure that whenever we have political leaders, whether those political leaders arrive through the appointment process, or whether they get there through elections, that we hold them to account. I think too often where the Caribbean is concerned, and again, it's partly because of the legacy of slavery and colonization and the psychology of slavery, for instance. One of the unfortunates about the Caribbean is that we have a situation where many of us believe that you do not question authority. And so we know obviously today that our understanding and appreciation of democracy has morphed beyond what we understood, say, in the 1950s, the 1960s, and 1970s. So it is really more about a process of getting civil society and the electorate, and those of us who do not have the right to vote, even as young people, that we have the right to inquire, we have the right to ask piercing important questions of our political leaders. And we not only just have the right, but we should be demanding of our political leaders that they provide us with answers, when even though those answers are in fact uncomfortable for the political leaders. But in the main, when I look across the Caribbean, what I see is a situation where I don't think, again, partly because one of the unfortunates about political culture in the Caribbean, maybe outside of the Cayman Islands, and we can discuss that in a while, is that we are too bound with political parties. We are very partisan in relation to our politics. And that partisanship has sort of disenabled, if I could use that word, in a sense, people in relation to their voice. And that is what I think is so important about, civil-based organizations, organizations like the one that is being represented here today, and other people who are, as you said, they're trying to impact or change thought processes across the region.
So when we come back from the break, let's invite the discussion. We'll come back, Mr. Toye, and perhaps have a brief word with you as well, because I want us as a public to understand. I can't just consider how I wanted to sort of broach this discussion. And hopefully my initial comments about being governor and the like would inspire many of us to think, well, why do we have what we have? I wanted to ask about political partisan and political parties, because we see the examples across the globe and what is unfolding in Cayman. But we start to challenge authority. And I like the fact that, Professor, you said not only should we ask questions, but we should demand answers. And too often we are told, well, as children, be seen and not heard. Well, is that the mantra that many of us grew up in? And those who didn't, where are we today? A few other things that may be provocative, if not, may evoke a little bit of insight. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
Busy, busy, busy. Feel like there's not just enough hours in the day. Savannah Pharmacy, service to make your life easier. Now you can WhatsApp your prescription order to 929-5045. And pickup is just around the corner with everything your family needs and convenient opening hours including Sundays and holidays. WhatsApp your prescription order to 929-5045. Savannah Pharmacy, wholesome values with modern conveniences.
The best foundation you can wear is glowing, healthy skin. The offices of dermatologist Dr. Wayne Porter specialize in enhancing your skin's well-being. Whether you're seeking advanced skincare, including any skin cancers, Botox, filler, cosmetic skin enhancements, or simply looking to reduce wrinkles, Dr. Porter offers a full-service dermatology and dermatological surgery practice. For more information, email drporterkman@gmail.com or call 946-9020. That is 946-9020.
Ransomware, DDoS, malware, phishing. If you don't know what those mean, you're not alone. But if you aren't protected against those cybersecurity attacks, then your business is at risk. Don't leave your data or your business vulnerable. Get Digicel Business Protect. Simpler, smarter cybersecurity. Visit our website, www.digicelbusiness.com, to request a callback or call us now on 623-2499.
Approximately 600 children aged 3 and over are enrolled in local early childhood centers this academic year. 218 families sought educational funding through the Early Childhood Assistance Program. 77% qualified for funding. See if your child qualifies and secure financing before September by downloading an application form from the Ministry of Education website at www.gov.ky/education and emailing the completed form to ecap@gov.ky by June 30. For more important ECAP application dates, follow Cayman Islands Education on Facebook and Instagram.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back. And thanks very much for joining us. And thanks, too, for this opportunity to speak to the need to look at, not just academia and research and scholarship, but to have a setting like the University College that provides for us a venue that we can question things and to be able to welcome into our shores someone with such esteem, such intellect, such respect as Professor Cynthia Barber Jazz. I think Mr. Ebanks nor Ms. Teresa would ever do enough to show the love and respect and appreciation we have that as Caribbean brothers and sisters we can celebrate together. So Mr. Mari Ebanks together with Teresa and Ms. Latoya Francis. Hopefully this evening Ms. Latoya would give us a chance to understand why we have this healthy democracy, why the assembly, while we were still young in the 70s of some making protests, why our women advocated so, ardently for their right to suffrage, why we've seen the notion, 100 plus years ago of our men gathered and say, we have this level of political autonomy. We want this sense of independence to make our own course. And yet today we question, are we really advancing? So good afternoon to you too, Ms. Latoya.
Good afternoon, Mr. Ebanks. Thank you again for having us. I think from last year, the symposium, when I first heard about it, I was like, wait, we're doing what? Mm-hmm. In Cayman? Sure. Let's get on that. Mm-hmm. And seeing the presentations that came out of that, the papers that came out of that, it was just, to me, as a young Caymanian, very inspiring to even go forth and, pursue higher academic achievements through doing a doctorate. Mm-hmm. And then last night, actually meeting Professor Barrows and hearing her speak. Mm-hmm. And as Ms. Teresa already eloquently said, just how she integrated with us. Mm-hmm. I felt like I was sitting at the table and for a moment I was like, Lord, like, am I at the right table? But just being, I think this community is very important for this generation and the generations to come, because we, through the different events and the different type of workshops and initiatives that we hope to achieve, I do believe that we are going to play an important part in answering some of those questions that you just posed. Mm-hmm. Whether or not we truly have a democracy in Cayman, whether or not we understand what that is as Caymanians, whether or not we're willing to speak up mm-hmm. For our rights. And so without further ado, the book that we're launching tonight, this is an effort 25 authors, I think it is, who came together and presented at this symposium. And the book is in honor of Mr. J.A. Roy Bodden. And I'm hoping that it won't become another coffee table book that you sit there, but people actually sift through it. Because even in rereading my own essay, I am now thinking of ways, okay, how can I go back and update this? Like, how has things shifted since I wrote it, since I presented it? And so without further ado, we'd like to present you, Mr. Ebanks, with a copy of our book on air.
Wow. Madam Speaker, let the record reflect. No, thank you. Those who know me may criticize the fact I don't like to watch television. I love to read. I credit my mother in particular, but my sisters for allow me 3 hummocks that I could sit under the coconut tree and to sit endlessly on days once the chores were done to read. This was a reward. So, Mr. Banks, I'll devour the pages without question.
And before we leave, we can also sign it for you, so you'll have an autographed version and the professor will sign it.
Well, now you're adding value to this thing, man. I mean, eBay, here it comes. But, Professor, if I might, though, Mr. Banks, if I might ask you, Latoya referenced, indirectly the idea of academics and the notion of some of us may have. You're in the classroom, and there's this thing that's being presented to you about history, about maybe a theory, maybe about something. And then there is this thing within the students that is inspired to a level of action. There is a social injustice. There is a change for some agenda item to be addressed. But for some reason, in democracies, we don't seem to have that voice. You referenced it just now in the Cayman relative to the political party system. I wonder what separates the smaller democracies from the actions that we may see in those places where the media is, termed in a less than flattering way, whether it's the uprising, as they put it, in Tiananmen Square, whether they look at what transpires in Hong Kong or the Arab Spring. But yet in our democracy, we sit idly by and we may, blindly go to the polls and cast a vote. But are we actively engaged, informed, and pushing and pressing for democracy?
That is so huge. It is so big. Sometimes, when we attempt to engage in some kind of comparative analysis, and we do so in a way that is very casual, I think we make a lot of fallacies in relation to what is actually taking place. So, in relation to the Caribbean, what I can say to you is that historically, and I don't know too much about the Caribbean dependencies, so my understanding is primarily about the independent Caribbean countries, and I understand the politics in places like Cayman Islands and Bermuda and the BVI, etc. Maybe in many ways different to what we experience in the Commonwealth Caribbean. But certainly where the Commonwealth Caribbean countries are concerned, I think we can focus on what was taking place, say, all the way back, 9 decades ago in the 1930s, where you had this spirit that emerged on the part of the Caribbean people protesting. And sometimes when I reflect on what has taken place in the Caribbean since the 1930s, at least the independent Caribbean countries, what I see, for instance, is the fact that the very development of the institutions, which are supposed to be institutions that Caribbean people can use to represent their interests, that unfortunately what has happened is perhaps the reverse, that those institutions have turned wrong and sort of shackled Caribbean people. But I have a little issue with people saying that, there may be a little greater vibrancy in, say, European, North American capitals than there is, in fact, in the Caribbean. For instance, one of the things that we know is that although very often we do not, say, agitate a lot in the Caribbean, the protests that we were used to in the 1930s, the 1960s, the 1970s, for instance, it seemed to have disappeared. We also have to bear in mind that a lot of that has now shifted online. So there's a different kind of agency being used, particularly by young people. So they're not taking out, they're not going into the streets. But I want to go back to the issue of the political parties. I think one of the unfortunate about the political parties in the region is that they have tended to engage a lot in patron clientelism as a basis for support. And given the level of poverty that we have in many Caribbean countries, given the high level of dependency that we have in the Caribbean countries, it is unfortunate that many Caribbean people believe that their livelihood, their sustenance is all wrapped up and depends primarily on a political party remaining in office. And in fact, that has accounted for a lot of the political violence that over the years we have seen in places like Jamaica. But we also must remember that these very same political parties themselves do have a number of thousands of people who support them. They are either formal members of the political parties, or they are just, ordinary people who support these political parties. But when we look at elections, what we do see is that you have this mass support. They are coming out, they are supporting the political parties. The unfortunate thing about the way in which our democracy has evolved is that we believe that our democracy has evolved in a direction of representation and not participatory democracy. And for that reason, what we get is the idea that the only time that we have to participate in politics is in fact at election time. And in fact, to criticize a political party is in fact to show disloyalty not only to the political leader but to the institution itself, and perhaps the potential to jeopardize the prospects of the survival of the individuals who are so dependent on these political parties. So it is not a simple issue. It's very complex, and I do believe finally that's why I think that what is taking place in relation to this particular committee is so important for a country like the Cayman Islands. The reason I say so is that when you look across the Caribbean, what we see is a situation where we do not have a very active civil society. We see a lot of activity in relation to political parties, but in terms of independent voices, in terms of that kind of horizontal accountability that we really think is ideal in a democracy, we don't see it everywhere too. Again, because so many of the civil-based organizations which have emerged tend, unfortunately, to become very dependent financially on governments. What we get is a collective silencing across the region. People are cowed because they know if they speak out and they criticize, especially those sit-tight political leaders we have, the length and the breadth of the Caribbean, the end result is that something is going to get into Parliament, some piece of legislation is going to get into Parliament, where in fact the sort of financial support that these civil-based organizations would receive would be ruptured. And it also is the case that, again, unfortunately, many of those civil-based organizations are not in a position where they can actually actually get the international community to support them financially. So they're really caught between a rock and a hard place. Mm-hmm. And because of that, therefore, we do not see the kind of activity on the part of civil-based organizations that we probably see in Western societies. So that is clearly part of the situation in the region. And at times I just believe that we have become too complacent, that many Caribbean people, and you sort of, when you spoke as well as Teresa spoke, not directly make reference to it, but I think it is understood that one of the things in relation to the Caribbean I'd like to say, and I want to speak about that tonight in my conversation with the people, is that unfortunately Caribbean people, in a sense, are schizophrenic. And I think part of that schizophrenia is really a development of our colonial history.
So when we come back from the break, I have a number of things to ask. I'm really honored to sit in your presence. It would be awesome to be in your studio, in your classrooms at the time. But we talk about it and maybe ask them other questions. Independence, the notion of reliance on government, as you alluded to, and talk about some other things as well. All right, stay tuned for Talk Today.
Today's biggest news.
Radio Cayman. Your voice, your choice. Local, regional, international. This is Headlines from Radio Cayman's newsroom. Today's biggest news.
With your latest headlines, I'm Felicia Rankin-Solins. The Cayman Islands Center for Business Development, a government department created to support the development of micro and small businesses, will host the first in a series of discussions dubbed Raising Capital. The first discussion will focus on what makes a small business fundable and is scheduled for Thursday, June 23, 2022, 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. at the Grand Cayman Marriott Beach Resort. The events will be open to the public. Those interested in attending may visit cicbd.gov.ky for further information. In international news, weeks after the U.S. president warned China over Taiwan, Beijing has delivered its sternest rebuttal yet, saying it would resolutely crush any attempt at Taiwan's independence. On Sunday, China's defense minister essentially accused the U.S. of supporting the island's independence, saying it was, quote, violating its promise on Taiwan and interfering in China's affairs. China's defense minister states, if anyone dares to secede Taiwan from China, we will not hesitate to fight. We will fight at all costs, and we will fight to the very end. Pop star Lizzo has changed the lyrics to her latest song after fans complained it used an ableist slur. Girls, which was released last week, originally contained a derogatory term for a form of cerebral palsy known as spastic diplegia in the first verse. Fans said they were shocked and disappointed and asked her to re-record the song with alternative words. The star took the criticism to heart and released a new version omitting the harmful word on Monday night. These are your headlines. I'm Felicia Rankin-Solins.
For the latest in news and information,
follow Radio Cayman on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Download the Radio Cayman app or log on to our website, radiocayman.gov.ky.
We wanna go and dally
Backyard, Caymanian and Jamaican cuisine. 7 Mile Beach might have changed, but Backyard is bringing it back. True Caribbean food in the heart of 7 Mile, just like Mama's home cooking. Brown stew snapper, Cayman-style beef, jerk chicken, turtle stew, and the delicious list goes on. Dine in, take out, or order with the Bento app. Backyard, Caymanian and Jamaican cuisine, 269 West Bay Road, or call 746-4603. Backyard, daily lunch specials, and the one-of-a-kind Fun Day Sunday live music brunch.
Backyard.
Water Authority Cayman would like to advise its customers that its office in Cayman Brac will close early this afternoon at 3 p.m. for a staff function. The authority apologizes for any inconvenience this may cause, and thank you for your understanding.
A caring and community spirit, cherished family and cultural values. These are some of the things that still embodies the Caymanian way of life in the Eastern Districts today. Savannah Pharmacy, your neighborhood pharmacy, located in Countryside Shopping Village, is delighted to offer products and services of real value. Whether it's catering to your family's medical needs or carrying apparel, gifts, and beauty products, Savannah Pharmacy provides you with more than just prescriptions. Remember, they're always just around the corner with everything your family needs and convenient opening hours, including Sundays and holidays. Savannah Pharmacy. For more information, call 946-3336.
As the community continues to take precautions from COVID-19, it is important to stay prepared for other disasters now that we're in the hurricane season. Here are some post-hurricane safety tips from the Department of Environmental Health. Did you know you must ensure all utensils are washed with detergent and rinsed with hot water if they make contact with flood water? For full guidance on post-hurricane safety tips, visit www.deh.gov.ky.
Cayman, get ready for Blossom Premium All-Inclusive. Come enjoy ambience, sweet soca music, and a star-powered cast featuring Edwin Yearwood, Vashti, Red Plastic Bag, Erica Asai, and Sherwayne Winchester. Thursday, 30th June at the National Gallery. Party time 7 p.m. to midnight. Dress code light cocktail attire. Blossom Premium All-Inclusive for KMS Carnival, a production of Calabra and SW Limited.
Subway is serving up a special new sauce, bursting with flavor in every bite. The new Savory Collection is a tropical sweet and spicy sauce made with a combination of spices, habanero peppers, thyme, onion, black pepper, ginger, citrus juices, and molasses.
So good.
Wow. Sensational.
Delicious.
Subway's Savory Collection pairs perfectly with our oven roasted chicken or steak sub. Savor the flavor. For a limited time, only at Subway. Subway. Eat fresh.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome, Mike. And thanks very much. And perhaps on behalf of the Committee for the Promotion of Research and Cayman Scholarship, you'll come out this evening at the University College as we continue our discussion. Mr. Mario Eubanks, Ms. Teresa Lewis Pitcairn, Ms. Latoya Francis, and the professor from the Caveville campus in Barbados, Professor Cynthia Barrow Giles. I say this sincerely. I think, like all here, we love to learn. We love the transfer of knowledge. We love to be able to have something explained to us and then to be able to challenge that explanation. Perhaps, Mr. Eubanks, before we continue the discussion, is this evening at...
Yes, the event this evening, the launch, is actually at the University College at the Sir Vassal Johnson Hall. 5:30 we assemble, and there'll be some time for refreshments, and but 6 o'clock sharp we want to start, and we will have a number of events on our agenda. We'll have, of course, the formalities. The master of ceremonies will be Dr. Stephanie Fulton Cooper, and we will have some brief remarks by some of the ministers, and also a very special presentation by UCCI dancers performing Cats. They perform the musical Cats, that is. And
thanks for clarifying that. I was just the Stray Cats was feral cats.
Right. and then we'll have a keynote address by Professor Cynthia Barrow Giles, and we will have also perhaps a question and answer period and some engagement on that, because we want to invite students, we want to invite business people, we want to invite people from the academic fields, government officials, people from the boards, and all society will to come out. This is an all-inclusive thing, free admission, and there, like I say, you'll also hear a good presentation and get into a high-level discussion, nation building, but also have opportunity to get your book. Right. Mr. Roy Bodden will be there to autograph the books. All the authors who are on the island will be there also to autograph. And I just want to quickly point out some of the people in the book. I mean, as Latoya mentioned, it's 481 pages. It's a fantastic book, and if the camera is here, I can just flash it. Those who are watching on.
He's not flashing it. He's flashing the book.
I'm flashing the book. Yes. So we have papers by Mr. J. Roy Bodden, Latoya Francis, Erica Gordon, Shannon Seymour, Christopher Williams. Just giving the highlights, just some. Livingston Smith, of course. Miss Mary Lawrence has a paper. Dr. Stephanie Fullerton Cooper, Monica Lawrence, Annika Hill, McKenna Scott. We have a paper also by Mr. Hadley Roberts, and I'm just happy. I'm not happy. I'm very, very sad to say that Hadley Roberts passed away yesterday, and he was a brilliant young man, and he has a paper in the book. His paper is in part 5, chapter 17, and it's on advocacy and democracy, Roy Bodden and the legal framework for political parties in the Cayman Islands. That's by the late Hadley Roberts. We also have papers by myself, Mario E. Banks. We have Lorraine Bob Stewart, Belika Samamba, who's a illustrious caller on your shows, Ms. Teresa Pitcairn, Sylvia Wilkes. So we have a rich inventory of papers in this wonderful book. So we want people to come out this evening at 6 o'clock at the UCCI Sir Vassal Johnson Hall for a rich experience of discourse, and also a wonderful book that they'll get autographed. And we want to have a great time and a good turnout.
Well, thank you for sharing with us. Because I think the more that we have something to read, the more that we can understand what we don't know, how we can critique what we do have before us. With that in mind, Professor, if I might, and thank you for what was very obvious, your willingness to engage, willingness to allow us to question certain things. And I think too many times we allow the status quo. For me, that's the perfect time to challenge something. Why preserve it if something better comes along? But this notion of neutrality, I don't know that makes sense. My analogy being that if you have a car and you have it in neutral and you're revving the engine, the car will sound good. It's not going to go anywhere. So you need to take a stance. You need to be willing to engage and do something. You reference the civil service and civil society and the like, and in some communities, the dependence that economic engine that's driven by government's spending whether it's the contracts from private sector or whether it's the percentage of the civil service that makes up the employment from the transfer of payments and the like. I wonder to what extent we as smaller communities would appreciate how that may indirectly cause us to self-censor, to limit and perhaps downplay or question it in our advocacy.
Well, I'm not sure. I'm not sure I understand the question that you're asking.
All right. So when we look at the reticence, the reluctance of civil society to engage when it comes to political discourse, to the notion that a particular thing that is unfolding or not unfolding, government's policy relative to the things, if the community financial sort of impetus is driven heavily by a government's budget, and if it's the employment of the people in that society is so much a high percentage in the civil service, could that limit that population's engagement in the political process?
Okay, if I can answer that in relation to what we witness across the English-speaking Caribbean countries, and that is not only something that certainly speaks to members of the public service, but it also speaks to people in some professions that you would think are independent and therefore would have the capacity to be genuinely objective and, of course, independent in relation to the articulation of issues that bedevil the Caribbean countries. And for instance, we had a conversation yesterday. Many academics are reluctant to speak out. And perhaps when you look at the Cayman Islands, the institution perhaps is controlled by government, and in a certain extent, I suppose there is a view that the people who work in that institution are government employees. But what we do know is that internationally, anyone who works in an academic institution is supposed to be covered by something they call academic freedom. Yet still, even though that may be the case, and I want to reference, for instance, some conversations that even at the University of the West Indies, where we are not perhaps controlled by government in that way, but although a lot of our money, is derived from the government coffers, but certainly there are academics there who do not publicly speak out on issues that privately they would tell you that are offensive to them, and the reason why they fail to do so or refuse to do so, because it's a refusal to engage with the public, to speak out against bad decisions which are being made by the government, where privately they are in fact lamenting that is the case, is because they would say to you that we live in small societies, and we live in a small society where, unfortunately, we have brothers and sisters and aunts and cousins and nenens and what have you. And there are occasions when to speak out as an academic means that even if they can't come directly after you, they can come after your sisters, your brothers, your nenens, etc. So unfortunately, we have situations in the Caribbean where persons who speak out, their relatives have not been able to get a job in the community for a number of years. And that's part and parcel of the ugliness of living in small societies. We like to say that small is beautiful, perhaps it is, but there is an ugly underside to it. And that ugly underside to it is the fact that smallness breeds an intimacy, which is not always something that is enjoyable, and it can breed a lot of victimization and harassment of you, so that we sort of engage in that self-censorship. But let me just say that we focusing on individuals, and we focusing, for instance, on academia, and you focusing on civil society. But I think one of the biggest disappointments for me in the region is the role that the media has played. The media is supposed to be it's supposed to be a bastion of democracy, and unfortunately across the region, with the exception of one or two people in the media, they have actually failed to live up to the expectation. The media do not undertake, because it's plural, the media do not undertake what I call investigative journalism in the way that you see overseas. They expect academics to do that, and very often, as I explained to some people last night, academics in the Caribbean certainly do not have the financial resources to undertake the kind of work that they need to. But the media, I think, is one of the greatest disappointments for me in terms of the development of Caribbean democracy. And having said so, it means that what we need to do is to focus a little more closely on all of the institutions of our national integrity system. And when we look at all of those institutions of the national integrity system, whether it be civil society or it be the media or it be, in fact, the executive branch of government, and in your case, including the role of the governor in your own particular situation, whether it be the cabinet or the executive branch or be the judicial branch of government, whether you deal with the Auditor General's office or whatever you deal with, we have to take a very critical role at this to see to what extent we can improve the performance in totality of the system. And I know that when I talk about the media, one of the things that we have to recognize in relation to the media is that there is this sort of hand in glove between major media houses across the Caribbean and the government, which is not always in the best interests of the promotion of democracy. And we have to find a way where we can separate the media. And I know the media depends a lot on government for things like advertising. The advertising budget is very important. But at the same time, I think the members of the media need to understand that their most important role in society is to really bring some kind of scrutiny to what the government is doing. And unfortunately, it does not exist to a great degree in the Caribbean.
So how do we address that then?
I was just going to say, and there's an incestuous... The way our media is organized historically is that, there's an incestuous relationship between the main media house and the corporate community. And their interests are aligned, and there's no desire to speak truth there. So I'm not sure how and aligned to the chamber as well. So I'm not sure how we're going to...
So is it a question then that sometimes when we look at these situations, we're not able to comment on the principle of policy? We instead focus on the person, the personality, and instead of calling the action into question, we castigate the individual. Is that part of the challenge that we have?
I'm not sure if you are not able to, or that you are unwilling to.
Okay.
Sometimes, yes, I would agree, because when you speak to individual journalists, probably like yourself, they would indicate, well, they have concerns with a particular matter, and they would like to raise it. And indeed, when you talk about persons who write in the print media, they would say to you, well, they have crafted this particular thing because they have investigated it, but once they submit it to, the editorial board, it is in fact being sort of, what's the word I'm looking for? They sort of silence, there's a lot of censorship taking place there. So that leads to a lot of frustration. People then inevitably just produce the run-of-the-mill articles that will not be subjected to the kind of censorship. So that, for me, some of the people who have done better in terms of the media have actually been people who have left the Caribbean or have in fact taken to social media because it's not as regulated. And there's a danger to that as well. It's not as regulated as, of course, the traditional media. But I think, too, one of the problems is that, unfortunately, and maybe it works for the media, maybe it works for government as well, but one of the unfortunate is that too often across the Caribbean, the people who are recruited to work in the media are not necessarily journalists. They are not necessarily trained journalists. They are not reporters or maybe they are just simply reporters. What media houses tend to do increasingly is to recruit people from secondary school. Once you're able to tell an interviewer that if you're going to do a story, then you must look at the cultural aspect, you must look at the social aspect, you must look at the economic aspect. And somebody can tell you, whenever the interview, just say those things. You are recruited, you don't really have any kind of training, you don't have an understanding. And I'll give you a classic example. There are political reporters, like there are economic reporters. And we had, in Barbados, a constitutional reform panel. And one of the guests, one of the panelists was, in fact, Professor Ghani, who is a constitutional, is a professor in constitutionalism. And he was making the point that our system is really a Whitehall model of government. I mean, I think most people who are political reporters in the Caribbean should understand that minimally. And there is, of course, a team of editors that will look through the work you have produced. And to my shock and horror, the 2 days later when an article came out on the panel discussion, I'm reading this thing, and to my shock and horror, what was published is that, Professor Ghani spoke about a whiteboard model. So I'm saying to myself, well, what the hell is a whiteboard model? I've never heard of Westminster whiteboard model. That is what he heard, and that is what he therefore and nobody, that is what he wrote, and therefore nobody in fact even gave it a second thought, and that was in fact what was published. So my point is that if you're going to be a reporter, if you're going to be a journalist, you have to be trained, you have to be equipped with the tools to engage in investigative journalism, and you can't just take anybody off the street, unfortunately, to undertake a sort of informative piece about what is taking place in relation to a set of policy. And too often journalists depend on this tape recorder now. This not like the old reporting. And secondly, not only do they depend a lot on the tape recording, but they also depend too much on, well, he said so and she said so, etc., without any sort of analytical arguments to raise the quality of the discussions. And it is an unfortunate, and I keep using the word unfortunate because other things are unfortunate about the Caribbean, that we depend a lot, the ordinary person depends a lot on what they read in the newspaper or what they hear on the television station, etc. And if it is insubstantial, then it's not adding much to the discourse that is taking place in the country.
So just therefore then it highlights the importance of an evening like this and a professor like you sharing, but for us as civil society being willing to speak to an issue and not just champion it, but rally alongside, if he doesn't mind me saying, the Bill Adams of Cayman that speak publicly about certain things. When those individuals are attacked, maligned, castigated, labeled as conspiracy theorists or troublemakers, or whatever the term we ascribe to them, where are we to draw alongside and say, well, wait a minute, this thing needs more ventilating? What's happening to our courage? What's happening to our intellect, our ambition, our need to preserve and promote democracy?
I don't think people are really concerned about democracy. I think for the most part, people are concerned with survival. And I think it's a natural instinct, therefore, people to sort of go a little silent when others are being attacked for the very things that they believe in. So people like Adams, maybe with few exceptions, will be left out there in the cold. But the thing about him, I think what can be done is that you draw a lot of inspiration from somebody like Billy, rather than say, castigate him and decide you are not going to be there. He has persisted. It doesn't matter what happens, he continues, okay? And I know he understands and he accepts that, there are people who would avoid him as if he's some kind of shark. But that will not prevent him from, critiquing government, to asking critical questions, to dive in, I think, where other people don't dive, to get the kind of information, to try to get government, even if they refuse, but to try to get government to answer. I think more and more what citizens need to do is to insist and continue to demand of, and collectively, you can't get 1, 2, or 3 people, and that is the problem. I think it is too narrow a base, and insofar as so many people are remaining silent, there's this collective silence, you're going to continue to see some of the bad governance, and there is bad governance. You're going to continue to see some of the bad governance that you're seeing in Cayman Islands.
Yeah. If I may ask, and probably these are continued discussions, we are, I think, very appropriately celebrating Prime Minister Mia Mottley. We saw her presentation in November at COP26. We recognize her championing. We see Barbados being a republic. There are many who have their perspective. To what extent, whether it's Ms. Mia, whether it's the Prime Minister, somebody now independent Caribbean nation or other, that those political leaders in their public utterances may sound good, but may be pandering in order to placate the elitists of the world in order to get the particular favors?
Well, you're asking me a big question. I'm not sure why you put him in this position. I mean, the Mia Mottley right now perhaps is in a league of her own. Internationally, that is. I mean, and she does give the Caribbean a sense of pride because of the position that she occupies internationally. You see how Biden, sort of very enthused about her. You see the reception she had at COP. But I need to say to you that at the end of the day, those international posturings do not get us anything domestically. And so domestically, that's the unfortunate.
Yeah.
Sounds good, articulates well, but you have to ask yourself, what does it translate into in terms of policy, in terms of developmental possibilities? And so far, there is nothing that really has accrued from a lot of the posturings that we've seen internationally. At the same time, understand something. Caribbean people do not vote for anybody on the basis of how popular they are internationally. They vote for people on the basis of how they are perceived domestically. And therefore, the public perception that you see of Mia Mottley internationally does not necessarily translate to domestic. In other words, she's much more admired internationally than she is domestically, although she is the most popular politician in Barbados today.
So something you can choose to respond, but something that maybe causes us to pause and ponder for a bit. To what extent and when our domestic political leaders are either on the local, regional, or global stage, pondering to these things for whatever return, how much are they willing to accede and accept to the detriment of their own people? The central bank digital currencies, for instance, the travel and restrictions, the other things that may happen in order to look good globally that could domestically backfire. I wonder sometimes where we are when it comes to our economic and social engagement that would compromise the standard of living and the willingness within a society.
I don't like the word pander.
Okay.
Because I don't like the use of the word pander.
Okay.
Because it does give the impression that every time our leaders go out in the international community, they are really sucking up, in a sense, to the global community. I think when, for instance, you listen, Mia Mottley, in spite of what I said a while ago, for instance, has been able to achieve a kind of social presence, a kind of political presence for many Caribbean states in relation to the whole governance arrangements of a number of international bodies who historically or traditionally have been very undemocratic. And so what we are seeing is that they are beginning to look outside of this small circle and incorporating people, for instance, from the developing world in terms of their board of directors, etc. Mia Mottley is but one of the examples. So the negative connotation coming out of pandering gives me some, I think I have to pause on that somewhat. It is also the case, and again, recently we have seen where, in spite of what I said a while ago, Mia Mottley did in fact lambaste and castigate quite publicly the lending policies of international organizations. So hopefully what we're going to see is some kind of modification in relation to the demands they make, particularly on developing countries. And I think to that extent, it may redound to the benefit of Caribbean countries. But I get the point you're making. Very often, unfortunately, we spend a lot of money on the international engagements that our politicians and heads of states, heads of government, do engage in, but it doesn't seem as if at times there is any meaningful translation economically or financially, that would benefit the majority of the population.
I know this season is going to be perhaps as we close our discussion.
Actually, I was going to throw a ringer in to ask her how does she feel about Cayman having independence to run as politicians as opposed to political parties. I just wanted to get your take on that. So we don't have political parties, or it's difficult for us to maintain political parties. Every now and again they pop up, but it seems as though people prefer to run as independents, and it would be interesting to hear your thoughts on that.
Well, boy, that's a biggie to come at the end of the session, a really big one. I think last night, again, I commented on the fact that one of the intriguing things about politics and electoral politics in this country is that the tendency towards independent candidates is really something in the rest of the Caribbean that is a relic, something that we dispense with since the 1970s. I don't think in outside of maybe a very popular candidate deciding that for whatever reason he or she is going to resign from a political party and then stand for election as an independent candidate and win the election. We don't see that taking place elsewhere. So the phenomenon is a phenomenon of the independent candidates in this country is really something that is intriguing to me. But again, as I said before, I'm not very familiar with the politics. What I can say to you that given the fact, when I read the paper by the young man who unfortunately died yesterday, when I read his chapter, one of the things that certainly, leapt out at me is the fact that these so-called political parties, in effect, can only really be, I think, sort of the most positive description I can have of those things is really an election machinery. It is really designed strategically to win an election, and so what you get is a group of notables, each one being a notable, a group of notables coming together for the express purpose of winning an election, and there is no unifying force that will keep them together. There is no some common ground in relation to a philosophy. What is the philosophy of this election machine? What is the ideology of this election machine? And so that is a problem for the development of political parties. But having said so, I'm not saying to you that political parties is a good word elsewhere in the Caribbean. Because there are problems associated with political parties. And too often, one of the major problems of political parties across the Caribbean is that they are dominated by the maximum political leader. And that maximum political leader has led to a situation where we have serious democratic deficits, and it's not always in the best interest. So whether or not you look at the development of party politics or non-party politics in the Cayman Islands, and you look at the development of mass-based political parties elsewhere, the Caribbean is in a whole mess in relation to the political sector.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think this is why this evening's discussion will be so enlightening. Respectfully, Ms. Teresa, can we ask you just for the closing thoughts about the group and the invitation for this evening? I know Mr. Roy, his enthusiasm, his intellect, but also I think his absolute public call for the public to be engaged more should be evident in his writings.
I'll just close. I was given the honor of preparing the foreword for one of his books, and in terms of the committee and what we're trying to achieve, I'll just make a quote by Einstein: to raise new questions, new possibilities, to regard old problems from a new angle requires a creative imagination and marks real advance. And I'm hoping that this is what this committee will try to do. I also reference Michelle Obama and Becoming, because we're in a state of flux, and we have how many nationalities? 140 living among us, and we live in a minority in our community. So that just tells a tale of what's to become. People ask me why I got involved with this. It's for our children. And because where we are now, we're going to have to grapple with so many challenges. And the hope is that we try to stem some of them that we know will happen as we evolve and become. So, but with respect to Roy, I'll just say this. He has penned a project with so many projects that are provocative, defiant, gutsy, and cuts to the quick as he debates and grapples with Cayman's subtle cultural tensions, racial divisions, the woes of the political economy and their interconnectedness. And this is what I think we are going to have the pleasure of listening to Professor Barrow. Jazz, I was almost gonna stop the double barrel, and then I says, let me just be nice as we close. And to have her spotlight these issues. And thank you so very much for coming and spend some time with us. Yeah.
So what you've heard today was just an appetizer, a sample of what's going to be there tonight at the launch. So we want to invite everybody to come out. It's a free event, 6 p.m. at the UCCI, University College in Georgetown, Sir Vassal Johnson Hall. We're selling the books for $25. We can't give change. We can't take debit cards. We can get some change, but if you want to pay more than $25, donations are welcome to the committee as well. But come one, come all. Bring a friend. We're going to have a great time tonight, and we're going to hear a lot more from the professor. And this is just the beginning.
Thank you all for coming on board, and I'm glad that you have this opportunity in our community, especially at a time such as this, with all that's unfolding globally. It's an honor, Professor. I really say that with the greatest of pride. I appreciate the instruction and the chastising. Tonight?
Thank you.
6 o'clock. 5:30 actually.
Yes,
Be there at the UCCI.
Yeah, not came on time.
No, if it came on time, you'd be there 5:15. At least in my household. I can promise you that.
So you don't come in.
Yeah, so if you be there on came on time, you'll be there early. All right. Be there this evening. And until tomorrow, tell me more about it. Be blessed.
Talk Today is brought to you by Subway, open 24 hours in Countryside, Anderson Square in Georgetown, and Centennial Towers in West Bay. And by the Ministry of District Administration, Tourism and Transport. Explore your history, explore your land, explore your sister islands. MedLab in Smith Road Plaza, your complete medical laboratory solution. Call 949-7331. And Savannah Pharmacy in Countryside Shopping Village, convenient opening hours including Sundays and holidays.
Six years.
3 beloved isles.
1 beloved station, Radio Cayman.